Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Before we get too far into the video, if you would mind hitting my like button, that really helps to get my channel promoted, and I do appreciate that a lot. I also love it if people leave comments, so if you got a question or a constructive criticism, or you have an idea for a video, or whatever, it's always nice to hear what you have to say. So ever since I did that hidden compartment ring, I've been having fun thinking about different ways to put a little hidden compartment in things. And if you haven't seen that, there's a good video that I was really pleased with the outcome, and I think it's kind of fun. So check that one out. I'm going to make a hidden compartment pendant, not so much a locket, but something that has a secret chamber in it, kind of, that you don't normally notice unless you look closely. And so I think it'll be fun. It's going to have a flower motif, and we're going to give that a try tonight. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pull off the way that I'm going to connect the two boxes together, but we'll see. It'll be a fun experiment. Before I do that, though, I want to thank some groups of people. My patrons over on Patreon are my core group of supporters, and I really value their not only their financial help, but the great community that they've built over there. I do appreciate that. My other group is my YouTube subscribers, and we just passed 17,400, which is amazing. Thank you for that. And I do really appreciate the nice comments that you leave. It's really nice to know when someone's getting something out of these videos that I do, so thanks for that. And thank you for the super thanks and the Buy Me a Coffees. That helps with the cost of materials right now. All right, well, let's get started on this project. This is one of my design idea books that you can get on my merch store. This particular one has fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeter conversion table on the back. Some of the other ones have some other useful tables as well. Ring size chart, and another one that converts to from American wire gauge to the metric system, which a lot of people find useful, and I do. And what I like most about them, though, is I can sketch up my ideas and have a record of it, which I've started doing when I started doing the channel, and it's really handy to have that. So get yourself one of these. Okay, so here's what my plan is. I have this yellow opaque amber. So every once in a while you find this kind of non-see-through amber, and I'm going to use that. It's a 12 millimeter cabochon. I'm going to bezel set it in some 3/16 inch fine silver bezel strip in 26 gauge. That's 4.75 or 4.76 millimeters by 26 gauge is 0.66 millimeters, if I remember right. The box is going to be the center right underneath the stone, and that's going to be made out of 22 gauge sheet, which is 0.66 millimeters. Oh, the 26 gauge is 0.41 millimeters, the bezel that I was talking about, not 0.66. 22 gauge sheet is 0.66. And then I'm going to make these petals out of 16 gauge square, which is 1.3 millimeters. So the way it's going to work as far as being a box is going to be, it's going to have this outer one here, which I've actually already made this part here because it's going to be a long project and I wanted to not have a 2-hour video. We'll make the secondary box, which is going to fit right inside of there. The majority of the flower petals are going to be on the top piece, which fits down over the other one, and then there's going to be one layer of petals on the bottom piece here. I'm going to try, I was originally going to do some sort of box clasp or something, but I think on this one I'm going to wrap a wire around this, solder it to it with a gap in it, and have a little projection on the inside here so I can pop it in there and then turn it. So it should lock it in place. At least that is my plan. We'll see if I can pull that off or not. it'll be a fun experiment. So to start with, though, let's make the box that goes inside of this. I have the other one in the pickle right now, so let's fish that out and see how it looks. Having the first one made, I think, will make it easier to make the second one because I can I can make the circle that's going to be the outside edge of the box, so it fits right in there nicely. And we can even solder that edge on it and see how that goes. But I think I'm going to use 18 gauge round wire that's flattened a little bit. I found a piece of that I made I used for something a while back. Hopefully that's long enough to go around the outside of the other one. But that's going to be the size that this fits in. I did some prototypes of these petals. That's 14 gauge square, which you could use, I suppose, if you wanted to. But I wanted to be able to see through a little bit more. So I pulled some 14 gauge square into some 16 gauge, so I have some 16. I think I'm going to use that instead. So like I said, there's going to be 2 layers of petals on the front piece, and then we're going to have the back piece with 1 layer with 8 petals. So let's figure out the size to make this other one here. This one was about 17 millimeters wide, and so I multiplied that times 3.14, which is pi, and that gives you the circumference. And it came out to be 53.38. I cut it a little bit longer so I had plenty to work with, and then I shaped it into a circle. So let's do the same thing for this inner box. This is pretty deep right now. I may file that down so it's shallower, but for now I want to make this other one maybe even a little bit taller than this one, because this is going to rest below the lip of this box here. You can see that these petals, so it's going to be sitting upwards a little bit. It'll be easier to show you than to explain. But so this is how wide I cut this one. It was about 7 millimeters, I think, plus the top. Yeah, it's about 7 millimeters. So I think let's scribe a line that's about 8 millimeters wide, and we'll see how that works. No, that was about 8 actually. So let's go 9. Or just do 10. Should I just do 10? I just don't know. Let's go 9.5 or so. Split the difference. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, so right about there. I get asked about these shears periodically. They're Fisker's craft shears. You can cut up to about 18 gauge with them, but that wears them out pretty quickly. They're not, I don't think, really intended for this, but they work pretty well for cutting sheet neatly. Alright, let's just kind of make it into a crude circle. Cut it a little bit big, and then we'll see how close we are, and gradually remove little bits. It's got a little bit of leeway, which is kind of what I wanted. I don't know if it's got enough though. I'm going to file it just a little bit more, and then we'll solder it and see how it looks. Let's give that a solder and see how it turns out. If you haven't been to my channel before, I use hard silver sheet solder, which looks like that. I use liquid flux that I dribble on, And my torch is a Silversmith model. It's their acetylene air torch. Just draws in atmospheric air through there. It's only got the one tank. It's not as hot as oxyacetylene, but it's hotter than a propane torch. So it produces pretty good heat, and I really like it a lot. So let's solder this closed. Cut a little bit of solder. I don't think I have much on there. Oh, this is called pick soldering. You pick up a little bit of solder on the end of your pick, and you heat your piece up to the soldering temperature, which in this case with hard silver sheet solder is 1450 degrees Fahrenheit. You just touch it in and it usually just jumps right on. I have a tendency to jump the gun a little bit and stick it in there too soon, but if you're interested in learning how to do that, I have a pretty good video about that. I'll put a link up there for you. Okay, let's see where we're at there. I think that's pretty good, actually, because I'm going to put that piece of flattened 18 around it at some point. We're not that far off of how deep it needs to be. If I leave this deep, I may not. I'm not sure. I don't need a huge compartment. This would just be kind of a little compartment to keep a keepsake in or something like that, I guess. A little self-affirmations. I am a good person. Or, you know, a memento from somebody. Lock of hair. Or if you want to imagine you're in some sort of Cold War spy movie, you could keep some microfilm in here. Somehow I don't think they make microfilm anymore with the age of digital storage. Okay. So, we need to put a top on it, or a bottom in this case, I guess. This is also 22 gauge, so let me find a spot on here. Right about there, I think I can probably. If you wanted to see me make the bezel for this, there's any number of videos you could watch on my channel, because I almost always make a setting at the beginning of the video. So I'm going to cut off a little more of this because I don't need all that, and it just adds mass when you're heating it. It makes it take longer to get hot enough. And I'm just going to trim it off anyway. Okay. This is going to be kind of like you do a bezel anyway. Just set it on here. I'm going to put some solder on the inside after I flux it. We'll just heat the whole outside as well as hitting the inside once in a while, because there's some surface area in there, until we get it to flow. Thank you to those people who bought my new ebook. It's a guide to all of the videos I did in 2024 with pictures and annotations about the project, and my original drawing, final product, things I might do different, materials you need to make it, difficulty rating. And there's two different versions of it. There's a PDF file, which is probably the most compatible with people, and there's an EPUB file, which works really good in iBooks or books on Apple products, and other people have had problems with it. So if you're not sure, get the PDF version. But here, I'll put a link up here for you if you're interested. If you do accidentally get the wrong one, just let me know and I'll forward you a copy of the other kind. Okay, now I'm just going to file this down flush. Okay. Now, I think we need to make the petals for the bottom piece. It's hard to see on the drawing here. The ones that are going to be on the bottom are the kind of skinnier ones. It's like this one here. So I need to make 8 of those. So let's grab some 16 gauge square. I'm going to try and get these as consistent as I can. So I'll probably make 1 or 2 on camera, and then I'll go off camera so I can take time and make sure they're all symmetrical. And then we'll come back and solder them off to the bottom of this, hopefully in a nice symmetrical way. Find out. Let me cut this off a little bit. I'm going to use this kind of as a guide. Get a pretty close idea. That's about half of it. So, let's give ourselves a little leeway. And I'm going to file a notch part of the way through this. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it right next to that, so I can make a relatively sharp bend there. And that's kind of the right shape, so let's, I'm going to cut this off, and then we can figure out exactly how long it needs to be. We can use that as the prototype. Right there. Just made little marks there. We'll cut them off pretty close to that. That's pretty close. So I'm going to make sure they haven't twisted at all. Square wire has kind of a tendency to twist on you a little bit. And let's solder this file area that I filed right there closed. Got some smaller pieces of solder. I don't need quite as big of pieces as that, probably. Okay, so I got that one. So I'm going to make 7 more of those, and I'll be right back. So I have 8 of these little petals made for the bottom piece. So let's solder these on. Quite a bit more mass in the centerpiece probably than each of these petals. So much of the heat is going to go there. That looks pretty good. Now we need to put on the things on the base of this one here. And I probably need to, at this point, think about how deep I want this to be. I want this to sit right down against there. But I can take this down shorter and this down shorter, and I think I want to a little bit. So let's file this down for a while. I'll be right back. Okay, so I filed both of these down just a little bit, so it sits right like that. And we need to take this inside one just a skosh more, but fits in there nicely. And it ended up being about this one from the top of the petals on the bottom piece. It looks like about, that's 6 millimeters, and this one overall length is about 7, which makes sense. That's pretty close to where I want it to be. So now we need to solder on the pieces that are going to go on the outside of this. So I'm going to need 8 of these, which are slightly wider than those ones, because there's only 4 per level, and these are going to overlap each other a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and make eight more of these. So let's find my 16 gauge square and we'll do the same kind of thing. And I'm going to make these pretty much the same way I made those other ones. About the same angle up here, and that's about what I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and make a bunch more of those, and then I'm going to solder them right at the tip like I did on the other ones. Get them all cut to the right length, and then we'll start adding 2 layers onto this one sitting on top of the other. So I'll be right back. So I got 8 of those made. They're a little bit wider than these ones. So let's just solder these on, and then we'll put a second layer on. This is one of those pieces where you taking a simple shape and repeating it and overlapping it, and it makes it look more complicated, which is kind of fun, I think. It's not bad. Start to see how it's going to look here. Well, that's going to be cool, I think. Let's add another layer. I think I'm going to put a little spacer in between here, made out of that same stuff, because I need to have these to the outside edges to stay elevated when I do this. Check out our solder joints and stuff. Probably have to cut these pieces off, so I'm going to do that. I'll cut those off and then I'll just clean it up with the Dremel. So I'll be right back after I get rid of those remnants. One thing I did off camera was I added a couple of jump rings up here where we can hook the chain on too. And some things I did, I took that flattened 18 gauge round and I made it into a loop, and I cut it so it left just a gap there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder. There's going to be a projection on the inside of this that'll fit down through that, and then once it gets past that, then we can turn it this way so it locks into place. And so the trick is going to be getting this soldered on here and having this in the right spot, and then just probably doing a little bit of filing to make sure they all fit together. And there needs to be a stopper right here so it can't turn any further. So we'll try and do that. I think I'm going to use a little easy paste solder for this one. Make sure everything stayed where it was supposed to stay. Feels like it's on there. So this is going to be just a little bit too wide to fit in there right now. So what I'm going to do is gradually file this down. It's almost in there. Let me actually clean out the inside of this and then finish filing it, and then I'll show you the final step. I'm about to add the little stopper right here. I added a little piece of the same stuff, flattened 18 gauge, just a little chunk of it so it can block that. And I put some more of that easy paste solder on there. So where this let's figure this out. So if I go that's about the right amount to get underneath that distance from the bottom. So I'm going to drill a little hole right about that level and stick a piece of wire through it so it sticks out a little bit, and then we'll round it out on the inside after it's soldered in. So I'll be right back. So I stuck a piece of 18 gauge wire through that little hole I made and put some easy solder there again. It feels like it's in there, so let's cut it off. Now there's not going to be, it doesn't have to be very deep, so I'm going to cut it off pretty short. Needs to be shorter. Okay, I'm going to just take it down gradually with a burr. Right back. Okay, so I think put that on like that, rotate it, put the chain on, put our little hidden compartment in there. Okay, I'll get that pickled, and then we'll do a little bit of polishing and set that stone. Alright, well here's the last bit. I just have to set this stone. I do this a little differently than some people. I use my chain nose pliers, which I polished up a little bit. Use the outside edge here as the bezel pusher kind of. I'm just going to lay it up against the stone there. And the last bit is going to be taking the rounded part of the chain nose pliers there and rubbing that top edge. Turns a little bit. And there we go. That's kind of what I was shooting for. Might bend these a little bit. But I have a split chain that I'm going to hook on here, and then I'll take some pictures. So, alright, I'm pleased with how that came out. I wasn't sure about the mechanism, and I think it worked out okay. Okay, well that was the flower pendant with a concealed compartment in it. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave. And I'd love it if you would take a moment and check out my main channel page. I have 430 some videos now. I do 3 per week, and so there's a huge catalog of content there for you to peruse. Check out a few videos. There's almost certainly something else you'll find enjoyable if you like this one. So check it out, come back and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the video description down below as well. There's some important links. You can get that new ebook if you'd like down there. There's a link to that. There's a link to my merch store if you want to get yourself one of those nice design idea books. And there's a link to my Patreon if you want to check out that community over there. So I'd love to have you join that as well. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care. Happy silversmithing.